Hey guys, welcome to Toomey Presents. Today I want to talk about steelbooks, and in my opinion, why steelbooks just aren't worth the price that people pay for them. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some really great steelbooks out there. I like the look of some steelbooks. I've even purchased a couple. The Crow is one of the steelbooks that I purchased, and the reason was, it's one of my favorite movies, and that artwork looks amazing. Now this is a slipcover, the eyes underneath are from the steelbook. But what I'm talking about is as a long-term purchase, because a lot of people buy physical media as something of a long-term purchase. They think of it as like, it may last 30, 40, 50 odd years, or at least that's what we hope. We don't know the longevity on these things. There's still DVDs from the late 90s, early 2000s that still play. There's still CDs from the 80s that still play, you know. We don't know longevity on physical media, so people would be looking at it as, how long can I make this last? And one of the things that really annoy me about steelbooks is, it's great artwork, don't get me wrong, but like, if I could pull the artwork out of here, for example, I can easily replace the cover if the cover was to get damaged. Now, usually with steelbooks, the cover is always, like the artwork will usually sometimes get damaged. You'll also have things like damage in shipping. You could also have little things like rust over time. So there are many reasons why I feel that steelbooks are just a bit risky for like my long-term collection. Now that's not to say there aren't good steelbooks. No one is knocking steelbooks. If steelbooks are your thing, I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying the longevity of steelbooks I don't believe will last as long as a plastic cover. And while I think a slipcover is a lot better, I think slipcovers can fade over time, don't get me wrong. But as I said, I could pull the artwork out and say, you know what? As long as the artwork's still good, I can transfer it to another cover. That's just something you can't do with steelbooks. And while I said, yeah, it's great that you could have, you could buy a replacement steelbook, I guess, but it's always good to try to keep the original artwork, the original way it was presented, the original way it was shipped. So for me, steelbooks are kind of this weird area. Not to mention they fill up a lot of rooms. Like with my collection, you can see how I shovel a lot into my collection here. I put a lot of cases really close together. Some of them are really jammed in there, so I try to fit as many as possible. The thing with steelbooks is that they really take up much room. They don't really bend or really like flex like a plastic cover does. Like I could flex a plastic cover down a bit. I could turn it around a bit. Like there's little ways to put plastic covers in that will shape, like go into a shelf pretty good. Whereas steelbooks kind of hold their shape. Now that's not a bad thing. I would prefer a steelbook to hold its shape. But when you're having a collection like this, I find that steelbooks just don't look great in my collection. And while some people say, yes, I prefer steelbooks, it is my preferred method. As I said, nobody's knocking your collecting method. I'm explaining my stance on steelbooks. Now, there are certain circumstances where I can't buy the standard copy. Like Disney releases like Loki, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Those only have steelbook releases, and you can't really get a standard version, which kind of annoys me because I like, as I said, I like to be flexible with my covers. I like to be able to swap them out. There's sometimes where I'll do little things to make the cover like pop a little bit more. Sometimes you get the skinny covers in America like this when you get them imported. And sometimes you just want a bigger cover. Sometimes you want to expand it to like the full-size cover, like the Australian releases. Here we go, look at Joker beside it. You know, sometimes you just want to expand it a bit. And that gives me the options, with my collection, it gives me the options to do that. Whereas I feel steelbooks do have a bit of a, here's how it is, here's how you'll put it on your shelf. As I said, nothing wrong with that. And I'm going to keep saying that because I feel like people are going to jump in the video, not read the context and read the title and be like, he's knocking steelbooks, how dare you? Well, if those people don't watch the video and you see them down in the comments, just laugh at them, guys, because they're not going to watch the context anyways. They watch 2 seconds of the video and then don't pay any attention to what the actual context is. So you'll see those people in the comments, I guarantee it, they'll think it's clickbait and say, how dare you knock steelbooks? Nobody's knocking steelbooks. I'm just saying for my personal preference of how I collect, I prefer not having steelbooks. The reason is because I like flexibility. I like to know that in 10 years, if a cover gets damaged or something happens or, you know, maybe a flood goes through or whatever, discs can usually be restored. You know, you get some isopropyl, it can usually clean up a disc pretty well if something major was to happen like that. You can't restore it from fires, I know that. But if there was a flood or something, Sometimes you can restore discs, but the covers, you can reprint them, you know? If a steelbook was in there, then obviously that's going to rust. It's going to be a lot harder to clean a steelbook. And that's not a knock on steelbooks. I think for collectability, they are great. I love how they look, some of them. As I said, the Crow looks amazing as a steelbook. That's why I want to not open it. Plus, it's collectible. Like, it's a very collectible thing. But also, you're paying a bit more. Like, I feel like companies have now figured out people will pay more for steelbooks. And that's quite annoying when you just want to have the movie on 4K. And yes, while some outlets have started doing, oh, well, we're just not going to put a Blu-ray special features. There's going to be one HD disc, one 4K disc in there, I mean. And that's all you're going to get, one disc in there. Whereas if you get the Steelbook, you have 2, 3 different discs in there. So they try to put value in the Steelbooks, but they're charging a premium. They're putting that price up 10, 15, sometimes $20 more. Like, as I said, the Crow, that version of the Crow I had up there that I showed you, that cost me about 40 something dollars. And that's Australian dollars. And I got that on sale. It's originally retailed at JB Hi-Fi for $65. Whereas the standard edition that came out a couple of months ago, the standard edition of the Crow, that was, I believe, $36. And on sale, you could probably get that for maybe $30, you know? This is what I mean. Steelbooks have become like the collectible ones, but also it's just not worth it. And yes, while it is great to have an extra disc in there, I love an extra disc. Like, it's why I bought Titanic twice, also because Titanic's my favorite film. But I bought the American release. It only had a digital code and 4K in there. And so I saw the UK release that had the Blu-ray in there and also a bonus disc. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, I probably have the bonus disc on Blu-ray. I probably do. I have that many versions of Titanic. Plus, it's cool to have in a collection. But I like that they will give you the extra disc. I like that. I like that it's available to me. But also, I don't want to have to buy a steelbook to have access to it. And yes, there are certain levels of steelbooks are good on a shelf. They look great in a collection. If I was to face like WandaVision Ford, let's grab it. I'll grab it off the shelf here. It's really hard to get out because the plastic's still on it. I leave it sealed until I want to watch it. But, you know, that would look very good on a shelf. If I put it like that facing forward, it would look great. But I also feel like it's just a bit of an overrated feature. I don't really see a need to have that on a steelbook when all of my collection here, all the MCU, is plastic covers. It kind of ruins the aesthetic of the look of it. It kind of looks like, okay, some plastic covers and some steelbooks, and it's kind of like a mess, you know? I like things to be looking clean, you know? I like them to be, you know, I just like a certain look. And that's why I just try to steer clear of steelbooks. Now, there are times where I'll go, oh, well, I want Dragon Ball Superhero on steelbook, because that Piccolo cover looks amazing for starters. But also, I like Dragon Ball, and also I think this one is worth it. As I said, I'm not knocking all steelbooks. Some are really worth the money. But what I'm saying is, I just prefer the flexibility of, hey, the cover broke for whatever reason. Hey, in shipping it was damaged. I don't want to have to send it back for 3-4 weeks. And sometimes some of these limited editions, like the Terminator steelbooks, that's not the steelbook, but like, you know, the Terminator steelbooks were really hard to get. Shipping it back might not be another copy to ship to you. I like that flexibility of, oh, the cover's damaged, but I can probably put that into another cover. Like, I have a few spare covers. Like, I can easily switch it out, you know? Whereas a steelbook, you kind of are limited to what they give you. And if that's dented, or if that's run over in transit, or something major has happened that obviously hasn't broken the disc. If the disc is broken, send it back. But if it's something like, oh, the cover's just got a little dent in it, yeah, I'm picky with my editions too when I pick them up. But, you know, if it's something like, oh, you know, it's Venom, but it's got like a little tiny thing there that, you know, you can obviously tell like there's been a little tiny bit of damage, I'm not going to get too fussy about it. I'm just going to be like, hey, does the disc work? That's always my main concern. Does the disc work? And if it works, I'm like, okay, what is the condition of the cover? Do I need to get another one offline? Do I need to get something replaced? Do I need to get them to say, hey, can you send out another cover? It's not the disc. I'm happy with the disc. Can you just print another one and send it to me? Which 9 times out of 10, a studio will say, yeah, no worries. Well, it's not even 10 cents for them to print a new one, pretty much. So they'll say, yeah, we want to keep that sale. So here you go. We'll send you a new one. No worries. It'll be in the post. They don't really do that with steelbooks. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll put the effort. But steelbooks cost more to produce. Likewise, they cost more to buy. And I just feel like the cost doesn't really suit my collection. It's not something that looks great in my collection. A lot of my collection is the standard editions because when I started collecting again, I just wanted the standard 4Ks. I just wanted them to look good, and I just wanted them to look good on my TV. And trust me, people say it's good to have the Blu-ray option, the movie on Blu-ray and 4K. I like options as well, as I said, with Titanic. But let's be realistic. If you're buying the shiny new 4K, you're probably going to watch that 4K more than not. Unless it's something like Terminator 2, where I've spoke many times about the transfer being pretty poor, then I will keep the Blu-ray copy around. But, you know, if they were shipping Titanic in the same pack, like Titanic and the Blu-ray and 4K, they're probably going to have the same master. They're probably going to have the same sort of look, you know. There's not going to be any massive difference. Same with Terminator. That would have the version that Cameron has shipped. That would have the one that he wants on 4K and Blu-ray. That wouldn't have the cut that's on my Blu-ray down here, the Skynet edition, or even the Ultimate Uncut edition, or Ultimate edition, whatever it's called. You know what I'm saying? I just prefer... A, Steelbooks for me just aren't worth it. I think they're a bit overpriced for what you're getting. And B, I just like the look of a clean, everything is plastic. Now, when my collection is big like this, I try to keep all the Marvels together, so that's why you have Steelbooks besides plastic covers, because I want Marvel together. But as I said, I would have really preferred if they had just done a slipcover. Have the Steelbook there for the high-end collectors. I agree, that should be available. But have another option for people who want the slipcovers. You know, I bought Thor Love and Thunder as a slipcover, and that slipcover is really good. But also inside, it's just a plastic cover. And that gives me the flexibility. If something was to ever go wrong, I can probably repair it myself. And I just like how much flexibility it has. Like, I'm thinking of my collection as like a 30 to 50 year commitment. I'm looking at this as like, okay, I know the world's going digital. I know streaming's there. I know everyone's going to say, oh, but your disc is going to rot in 10, 15 years. I'm willing to risk that. I am willing to see, as long as I maintain it and I look after it and I try my best, there's laser discs that still play. There's CDs that still play from the 80s. There's VHS tapes from the 70s that still play. Do you understand what I'm saying? I believe in having the flexibility. But when you have a case that is susceptible to rust, like a Steelbook, and they are susceptible to rust, don't say they're not. They're steel, they will rust. And yeah, you can look after them as great as you want. They are still susceptible to rust. There is a shelf life on steel. And yes, it lasts very long. It will not wear out straight away, but you will see telltale signs of wear, and then it will start breaking down as air gets to it, oxidization, obviously. And also scratches. Like, yeah, you put them in hardcover, I'm sure, but I believe in the flexibility of, hey, it's a slick in there, you know, that's what they call the artwork in there. It's a slick. You pull the slick out and you can put it in another cover, and that will look after it for longer. If the cover starts breaking down, swap the cover. So that's my mentality on Steelbooks. I know people have asked me many times on these comments, what is your stance on Steelbooks? That's where I stand with it. Yes, it's nice. I am not knocking Steelbooks at all. If you're a collector of Steelbooks, I'm happy for you. I'm happy you enjoy it. But for me, it just seems a bit overrated. It seems a bit overpriced. And I prefer just everything to have one standard cover, so when they're all together, it looks great. And yes, while there's some editions that look great, like, as I said, Dragon Ball Superhero, The Crow, while there's editions that look great, not everything needs to be a Steelbook. I don't need all my Disney Plus shows on Steelbook. I need some options, you know? If they had 2 different or 3 different versions of it and say, there's a standard edition, there's a one with a slipcover that costs about $5 more, or you can get the Steelbook that costs $10, $15 more. I would probably choose the slipcover every time because it offers flexibility. That being said, if it looks really good as a Steelbook, I would buy the Steelbook. And I know this is so confusing, and I know some people hate when I rant on these videos. But yeah, that's probably everything you ever needed to know about my stance on Steelbooks. If you like this video, like, subscribe, drop a comment, and I'll leave 2 videos at the end of this that are from my other channels, and you can check those out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.